Welcome to the Show Me Podcast with your host, Jeff Livingston. Every episode, a guest joins Jeff and discusses how images tell stories and what makes them work or not.
Okay, or don't have it wrong.
That's right. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Show Me Podcast, and thanks for dealing with our snark as we get started. We have a very, very special episode. We're on season 2. I think this will be episode 3. The episodes were not recorded chronologically, so ironically, this episode with Noe Todorovich, who is the executive director of Expose DC. She also happens to be a lifestyle photographer. She was on the show last season in this role. I will drop that show in the show notes. But this particular episode follows the Kristen McNicholas episode where we literally critique the daylights of the 2019 Sony World Photography Awards. And that was actually a very interesting episode because we kind of got into some of the thinking that went behind choosing photos and why or why not. And Expose DC, the annual awards, is one of my favorite awards because it actually rewards people that live in the city, that take photos in the city, that aren't necessarily professional. They just happen to get great captures, and it has like a real strong, authentic vibe to it. Full transparency, I do have a photo in this year's show, but we're not going to discuss it. If you want to check it out, go to the Expose DC website. So with that, Noe, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Excellent. So we have you here with your other hat on. We talked quite a bit about photographers, and I think if I remember correctly, who was your influencer that we brought on? Was it? It was an old black and white film guy, wasn't it? Double exposures too. We talked about last time. Tell us about the work that you do with Expose DC.
Sure. So I'm the executive director with Expose DC. I've been in that role since September 2017. I was in the show, and that's how I found out about Expose DC. Actually, I found out about Expose DC, submitted, and was not in the show for several years.
Oh, no.
And then I was in the show, I think, in 2015 and 2016, and talked to some of the team about volunteering with them because I had done freelance photography full-time, made that transition. So I was asking if there was anything I could help with, and it was very kind of vague.
Right.
I didn't have any specific ideas or
We got a job for you. Run it.
Yeah, that is essentially what happened. And I couldn't be happier with it. I really enjoyed being on both sides of the show. And, as much as people were like, oh, no, you can't be in the show anymore now that you're running it, I was never, ever disappointed by that at all. In fact, I think it was like 39 to 40-fold celebration because it's like I was just one photographer. Now I get to find out how much it means to all the photographers who are in the show each year.
Right.
So.
And your first year was the year when the inauguration happened and they extended the deadline, if I remember correctly?
I think it was, so the first show that I was responsible for was the one in DuPont Underground. So I think it was like the year after because it's a little bit, but like the contest was open in 2017 because it usually opens in December. And then we do the show the following spring.
So with that, let's get into the 2020 show, the reward, if you would, or the winners from the 2019 calendar year. And we have a collage showing with some of the images. Some of them we'll be talking about today. But before we get into those individual images, tell us what this year's awards were like for you as the judge and who were the other judges. Tell us a little bit about that process.
So as far as who the other judges are and everything, it's the Expose DC team and board members, and we all go through, and initially it's a pretty simple, straightforward, like yes, no type of approach, and then we kind of aggregate that and then put together a show that when seen together, the images will show what it's like to live in the DC area.
Right.
So this year, I think we were looking for the usual everyday scenes like street photography. We look at portraits, we look at anything from art and music. There was obviously some big happenings in the sports realm.
Right.
So we were definitely attuned to that. And then also with the anniversary of the Apollo 50th year landing on the moon, we figured that would probably be a pretty big moment to capture.
right.
for this year's show. So that's some of the photos that we've selected that we'll talk about.
Sure, absolutely. And before we get too far, tell us about the exhibition and where people can check out these photos live, because there are 40, 50 photos in the show.
43 images taken by 39 different photographers.
Outstanding.
We have new photographers, and then we have people who have been in the show before. You have people who are amateur and very professional. Runs the whole gamut. So
very cool.
the show is going to be at Touchstone Gallery. It will open February 19, which is a Wednesday, and then run through March 1st, which is a Sunday.
So just 2 weeks.
Just 2 weeks. And the opening reception will be a big party as usual. So we'll have an open bar, and tickets are $20 in advance, and they're on sale now. And we'll also have limited tickets at the door for $25. And then the gallery will be open 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Wednesdays through Friday, and then noon to 5 Saturday and Sundays.
Outstanding. Cool. So, folks, you got 2 weeks to get your tickets. Get there.
Hope to see you there.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there.
I mean, you'll be there.
I have to be
also,
there.
To everyone, hope to see you there.
Oh, it's not about me. Damn.
I mean, it is. It's 100% about you. Everyone, ignore this. I'm only inviting Jeff.
All right, so let's get to some of this awesome photography. Is this Brian Moseley's?
This is Brian Moseley's.
Okay, is that from the Nats winning it?
It is from the World Series parade.
Woo.
Fun fact, he was like 2 lampposts down the road from me. No, just we were super close to each other, during it. But he didn't want to lose his perspective, which I guess was a really good thing because he got great shots.
Yeah, it looks good.
So
I really
this was just the confetti afterwards, and I think there was just something so fascinating with this image. It just really captured the joy, even though the only people in it are not Nationals players, or they are working on shooting confetti from the vehicle as it's going down the road. But I think it captured a lot of the joy of everyone's experience being down there and just being so excited that this had actually happened finally.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like when I look at the photo, I see a lot of spirit. I see a flag in the background too. So it's actually, when I looked at it, I thought, yeah, that is DC because of course it's the seat of government. But on top of that, it just had a lot of the mood that lifted the city. I mean, keep in mind, right? We have an impeachment proceeding that's happening while this is going on, not the actual trial, but the hearings were starting to really start to roll up and start to get discussed at this point. And the president had just been booed at the stadium. We're not talking one side or the other. We are not favoring one side or the other here. But, so a lot of angst in the air, right? Politically speaking, but this unified the city. It didn't matter which side you were on. You loved it. And the parade was I believe it was bigger than the Capitals parade. So
I didn't go to the Capitals. I did go to this one. It was pretty big and jubilant, and it didn't seem like politics really played in much at all.
Yeah, it was a refreshing break, if you would. So, but one of the things I noticed along with that is that there were several photos that seemed to kind of have that confetti kind of sparkly atmosphere. So, and I know you guys go after photos that kind of look like they belong together and show that spirit. Was that intentional when you chose this one?
I think it was also because we wanted to not just focus on the Nationals winning, but also the Mystics won this year, which didn't get nearly as much coverage. And there were people who were talking about the fact that they didn't have a parade yet. But I found out part of why. I'm not sure if it's true. I'm sure it makes sense to me. But apparently a lot of the players had obligations from the Mystics, so they had to leave immediately after. And so that's why they weren't able to throw a parade right away, which makes sense because a lot of the players in the WNBA also play in Europe, and they have contracts and they have to go right away. Whereas with the Nationals, it's the end of the season and they just play baseball. They don't really
They're going
moonlight.
To the golf course, right?
Yeah. So they had a little bit more time, but also they did it pretty shortly after because all the players were still here before they could take off to all sorts of places.
Right.
So.
And this photo, by the way, is by Brian Gray, and it's called Confetti, one of the award winners. And you're right when you speak about all the sports things going on too, because also the Cavaliers won a title in Virginia. And then the year before, the Capitals won, and everybody that's lived here for any significant period of time knows about all the whining that the sports fans do about being a cursed, downtrodden city that hadn't won anything since the Washington Football Club won in the 80s. And or was it
Been a long time.
91? So it was a long time, and then all of a sudden we're title town.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah. I loved that shot too, because it again captured that whole jubilant feel. And it's funny that they both happened to have confetti.
Right.
It wasn't that we were releasing that out, but those were the ones that truly captured the energy of the town when those teams won.
Yeah.
I think.
In the moment. And this photo is completely different, but I liked it in the same series because, again, you had already brought up the Apollo landing 50 years ago, or the launch. But the thing that I liked about it, too, was the stars kind of reminded me a little bit of the confetti. They have a little bit of a sparkly feel to it. Talk about this. And we saw a lot of dead-on shots. This one's got a little bit of a different composition with the lights.
Yeah.
And the monument a little bit bent. So talk about it, if you would.
Sure. So this shot, I think, grabbed our attention because, as you mentioned, you can see the stars behind it. And also just, I think, the lights that are not illuminating the Washington Monument per se, but they're also creating almost like a framing aspect to it. Like the ones on the right lead your eye towards the monument, and the ones on the left go off screen, but also draw your attention to the fact that there's like movement and motion of people coming and going. So you can tell that it's at least a slightly long exposure.
Great composition.
Yeah, we really, really liked that perspective. And I think it was like a good distance from it so that it's not too small and it's not too big so that you lose the scene. And I think, because that also captured it, that was about how I witnessed it, because I was coming back from a friend's in DuPont Circle and Patrick was driving, and I was like, let's just go this way. That's going to be a pain in the butt, but we can at least see it, because we were going to be out of town when they did the whole video, but they did it a couple days in advance just, to have it lit up.
Trial run, yeah.
Yeah, illuminated without the, like, animated version of it. So I, basically jumped out of the car, ran over, and took, a couple pictures on my cell phone, and then jumped back in the car.
Very cool.
So, as you can see, I think it looks like there's a kid running in the bottom left.
Yeah, I
over there,
love how he incorporated the people in it, and it's a very good candid shot. It's a long exposure, clearly, right?
Yeah, but then it just looks nice and sharp at the same time, I think, because of the monument being the focus of the movement, and the stars also come through nicely.
Yeah, it's a really good photo. Love it. And all these photos are for sale, right?
They will be
Ather
for sale.
Ahsan. Yep.
At the exhibit, as well as people can contact us in advance as well. So if you see something, you can definitely get in touch with us. All the information's on the website as well. Or people can email me.
Or I'm going to buy it before you do. For our next series, I want to talk a little bit about some of these lifestyle pics that seem to make it into the show a little bit, and that you had also curated in advance of today. And this is Diane's picture here, and I think it's called, what's this one called? Working Late?
Late Night Shift, I believe.
Late Night Shift. Yeah, and I love it. It's underexposed intentionally to put a spotlight on that, make that light area on the desk really pop, and you can see the outline of the laptop there. Really kind of drives home the point, and the fan, it's just, what an outstanding touch that is. Just fantastic. Really great eye for that one. It looks like it's actually something, it looks like it's Eden DC to me because of the shop and tasting.
It is. I was going to ask if you recognize it.
Yeah. It's just one of the hot places,
I can tell you. Yeah. But if you want to.
Tell me.
I don't know.
Tell us. Where is it?
Okay, I'll give you a hint first.
Oh, come on, man. I live in Virginia.
So the place should seem familiar. You've probably had some of their beer at exposed shows years ago.
I don't know.
Blue Jacket.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So down by Navy Yard, I think. it was funny because at first I didn't realize it, but as soon as I read it, I was like, yep, I see it, because that's the little like walkway into the other, like the gift shoppy area. And it used to be something else before, but that's the hostess stand where when you first enter on the left.
Hostess / standing desk for that day, it looks like.
Yeah.
So tell me why you think this one got selected.
I think this one got selected because it was a little sliver of like everyday life, which is another thing that we are always trying to show. In addition to the notable events that have happened over the last year or so, we also are trying to just show what it's like to live in DC. And that is a potential snapshot from, somebody just going to grab drinks or have dinner, and then just recognizing the awesome light and shadow play and then documenting that. And I see you pulled up another one from
Anaki Sanchez's Beauty
in the Ordinary.
Yeah, so this is
which I think is
kitchen,
spot
right?
on. I mean, I would explain it, but I think the title does it. Is like this somewhat captivating scene of just simplicity, I think, and it's very
colorful, actually.
Very colorful, and yeah, again, you still have the light and shadows, but I think the toning of it is really fascinating, and just the literal representation of wanting to see like everyday life in DC, because that could be taken anywhere, but being taken here, it kind of captures a little sliver of someone's personal life and an ordinary scene. And also it's inspiration, I think, for people that don't know what to photograph, or, I feel like I've been here for over 15 years. And when I used to get so excited about going to photograph certain things, it can get a little bit old and hard to stay motivated. And I think this is a nice reminder to look literally everywhere around you, and that you can find beauty in the most mundane things.
That's very cool. Yeah. I really love too the color, if you would, and the contrast between the yellow and the green and the simplicity of that. It's not selective coloring, but there are just select colors in the photo.
Yeah.
And
true.
they really seem to pop. And also the other thing that really kind of spoke to me was in this photo, DC is a very green city. Yeah, there are trees everywhere. So this made me think that this person had an apartment, and it was probably 3rd or 4th story, but it could also just as easily be a suburban home on a hill.
Right.
So very cool. Very nice. And well done, Anaki. Let's see here. Then we've gone into the street stuff a little bit, and I think we'll do Gina's first because that's a very colorful, fun photo. And wow. I mean,
yeah.
I think like I've seen another photo in one of the shows where there was kids playing in a fountain, if I remember correctly.
I think we have had that, but it was a very, very different
it was Georgetown.
composition.
Yeah,
it was in Georgetown, and I think that the water was also part of the frame in that one. And this one, it is as well, but I think it's almost part of the picture by like what it takes away from you visually, because you can't see the full scene, but it just seems very captivating and magical and like almost otherworldly. Like people are walking off into who knows what.
Yeah. And one thing I like about this photo and the photo prior to it is when I see saturation, I usually think of fun, right? When saturation's done right. I mean, we're not talking about like, remember the last show we had where we were ranting about like, oh my God, it's another Washington Monument photo with Pantone colors.
Yeah.
But this one, I mean, it really, the saturation works really well. It conveys that fun. There's a vibrancy to it. I always think with children too, having that kind of fun saturation and vibrancy works well. And then the last thing, and I'll shut up.
I was looking at that too, so I'm glad you're gonna.
Yeah, the framing with the pillar there is just can't get any better. I mean, just fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, nice, great detail. Okay, all right, we both like.
So funny. I was just looking at that because I'm not even sure if I'd noticed it before, but from where I'm sitting here, I was like, that line there is like just nice and clean.
Yes.
Speaking of nice and clean.
Well, this is a tight photo. This is Union Station, right by the Metro entrance. I know because I used to work there and took this damn Metro every day.
But by Sofia Sebastián.
Beautiful.
Yep. She was in the show last year. She had a picture from Adams Morgan. And so that one was in color. This one is in black and white. And I think it's a really good street photo, and it seems like the more you look at it, the more there is going on, and it almost seems like a collage, but you know that it's all within one frame and one picture because it's like the shadow of the person, I think, on a bike in the bottom, like right, looks like, and then the person on the phone, and then you have the person who's just like amidst all that shadow lit behind. And I feel like I just keep on looking around in it, but not in a way that feels chaotic or, overwhelming. It's more just, it all comes together so well, but there's still so much to look at.
Yeah. And it's clearly one of those shots where it's a decisive moment. I pulled the trigger at the right time. But the other thing that really kind of rang out to me was that she knew how to use her camera, because this is intentionally underexposed, or she knows how to edit well. But I don't think you can get that richness of shadow and contrast if you aren't underexposing it intentionally. It just looks really, really tight. The silhouettes are fantastic. I imagine there's another shadow right behind this guy with the gentleman that's got the shoulder strap. Just really, really, really well done. Love it.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. And then we're going to get into some classic DC photos because it's still DC. And I guess last year was the year of, Firehouse Friday, Jane Fonda arrest.
Fire Drill Friday.
Fire Drill, Firehouse.
Ted Danson made some appearances along with some others, I think.
Joaquin Phoenix, the last one.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that because Jane Fonda was tried and true. I feel like she was there a lot.
Yeah. And she
seemed like every week, and it's great because I feel like she has a very similar expression like week to week, which is captured here by Erika and Nizborski like so well, just like a ooh.
Yes.
It's kind of great. And I also like the composition of this one as well because her red coat just makes her stand out. So you don't need to be any closer necessarily, but then you also get like the whole scene there on Capitol Hill as well. And you can even see the facial expressions of a couple of the police officers there.
And it's funny was I was there for the last one with Joaquin Phoenix, and it were so many people, and I think it was because of the impeachment stuff going on at the same time, that they actually had some serious crowd control in the movement of the police officers. But they were literally asking people, are we intending to get arrested today? Please let us know in advance. We're like, oh my God, okay.
Here's the line. If you'd like to be arrested,
here, get your plastic tie, right? Like so weird, right? Civil disobedience in the 21st century. And then along those lines, I know we have one more.
I think it's the fireworks one by Craig Nedrow, 4th of July.
Yes. So Craig, full disclosure, I plugged this one because I know Craig. I'm actually taking a photography editing class with him simultaneously. And I saw his photo and I just loved it because I've always wanted to do a shot from the river of the fireworks. Fantastic, right?
It is a great shot. He captured a lot of the fireworks all going off at once, which I've tried to photograph fireworks a few different times, and I feel like it is actually pretty tough. The lighting changes a lot. Like there are several blog posts that you can look up that will kind of walk you through how to do it. But I feel like during the show versus like the finale, which I'm imagining this must be near the finale, if not during it. And
this year the president had extra fireworks, so it's kind of maybe the Haynes Point fireworks. I don't know, or there was two different locations. Sure. Yeah.
You might have to ask Craig.
Yeah.
Or I can.
Well, yeah, and it looks like the exposure is like a half second. It's pretty short.
Right. You can see from the bottom. That's the other thing about it, I think, is because you can see from the base, like the line is still straight there as it goes up, but then there's also some up in the sky as well.
Beautiful, beautiful shot.
And even like a little bit of silhouettes of the people that are watching, too, on the very, very bottom.
Yes.
That you could almost miss.
God bless him for getting out there on that bank doing it, because that's a nightmare. You live in Virginia too, so it's a nightmare getting out there. That's not fun. Yeah, I did that with my daughter one year. She's like, never, ever again. Excellent. All right, so that's pretty cool. What else would you say about the show that we haven't talked about already? I think that was our last shot for this. That kind of gives people an idea of what they're going to see.
Let's see. Yeah. So the collage, there's still more photos. I think one thing to be said is that even being involved in the show very closely throughout the entire process, nothing is the same as seeing the framed photos on the wall. Like every year it gets me because it's like I've seen these photos so much and, worked on things like a collage to represent the show and then posting them on the website so that everybody knows who won and everything. But when you actually get into the gallery and we hang it, there's something incredibly satisfying about both doing that and then seeing the finished product. And it just looks really cool. It's also a fun process. I can tell you a little bit about like the way that we approach it, which is pretty entertaining. I think we mostly walk around and set photos down where we think we want them to go. And then we look at them and see like, do we have too much of this here or not enough of this there,
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And then also we are going to have 5 Best in Show awards. That's the other thing that we haven't talked about yet. That is probably important.
Do you know who the winners are yet?
I do. We will be announcing them the week leading up to
the
to the opening reception.
Can't leak it for the listeners. If they made it all the way to the end of the podcast, don't they get like a little reward? Panama, do you think this is fair? She's like, I am not mic'd up.
Yeah. So I can tell you about the judges, the 5 judges who will be picking the awards, and they all made their selections. We do have it because we need to work on the program, which I've already ordered the sample program so we can review that. So that's why I have the insider info, but we will be sharing that soon. I think that's going to be like less than a week from when this is released.
That's true.
Yeah, so stay tuned next week. On the
Expose DC site.
Yeah. So the winners will be announced one a day leading up to the opening reception. So the full week before that.
Outstanding. That's pretty cool. So now you have something to go back to the site and check it out. Is there more that we're missing, or should I tell everybody the exciting stuff that they need to do before they stop listening to this podcast?
I think we can tell them the exciting stuff they need to do.
All right.
Now I can chime in with.
She will provide the corrections for the errant Jeff Livingston. ExposedDC.com. That's where you get your tickets. Mm-hmm. That's where you can get in touch with Noe or the team there to purchase a print if you like it. Make sure you check out the site in a week to see who are the top winners. And then most importantly, you can always find Noe Todorovich at...
You can find me at several places. So you can find me with Exposed DC, like on Instagram and Twitter. Exposed DC on Instagram, it's exposed_DC.
Right.
But other than that, Exposed DC and Noe Todorovich, me personally, on Instagram, Twitter.
Right. And your website's noetodorovich.com.
Yep.
And there's a fantastic episode in the show notes on the site from Noe's first run on the Show Me podcast. She is the first 2-time guest on the Show Me podcast. Yay! Thank you for your time.
Clap myself. It was that, or I was going to do one of these, and I decided not to, but I just did. So that's out there.
We should have done that during the intro. All right. Panama, thank you for producing, and please take us out of here.
Thanks for listening to the Show Me podcast with Jeff Livingston. More shows, sponsorship, and donation information are available at showmepodcast.com.